On August 21st, 1991, the small town of Laurel, Indiana, home to just over 500 residents, was shaken by the tragic and untimely death of 16-year-old Jason Dale Bolton. Officially, his death was deemed an accident, a case of a teenager passing out drunk in the road and being struck by a car in the middle of the night. But to Jason's family, and to many who later reviewed the circumstances, the case was anything but accidental. It has instead come to represent a chilling example of a potentially brutal murder, hidden under a thin veneer of law enforcement narrative, small town silence, and systemic failure. Jason was born on April the 15th, 1975, in Connorsville Township, Fayette County, Indiana. He grew up in the tight-knit rural farming town of Laurel, where life moved slowly and neighbours knew each other by name. In many ways, Jason was a typical American teenager. He was well liked, did reasonably well in school, and by his family's account was respectful and not a disciplinary problem. His brushes with marijuana were minor and far from unusual for his age group. By and large, Jason was remembered as a good kid with a bright future ahead of him. He lived with his mother and siblings and had reportedly been estranged from his father for many years. Some accounts even suggested that he had never met his father. His older sister, Tommy Bolton Schmidt, described a loving bond between them and later reflected that how identifying her brother's body at the morgue was one of the worst moments of her life. Her words carry the weight of sorrow that no sister should ever bear. Quote, "My life stopped the night I identified baby Jason." The tragedy unfolded in the early hours of August 21st, 1991. Jason and his friend, 15-year-old Michael McLeod, had been drinking beer at a bonfire party that night. Sometime around 1 a.m, they decided to leave, and for reasons that remain puzzling to this day, set out on foot towards the home of Jason's father on County Road 750 South. According to McLeod's statement, the two became tired and decided to lie down and rest right there on the road. Around 3 a.m, a vehicle driven by a man named Dwayne A. Grimm approached the dark, rural stretch of highway. Grimm later told Trooper Todd Fields that he thought he saw someone in the road and swerved left to avoid them, but failed to notice the second person, Jason, on the other side. Grimm's vehicle struck Jason, killing him instantly. The responding trooper reported that Jason had no identification on him and was later identified at the hospital by his sister. The official report from Fayette County Coroner Joseph E. Todd offered gruesome details. Jason's body had been struck in the groin area by the front left tyre, causing extensive trauma and loss of tissue. His body was then dragged a short distance before being run over, which crushed his ribcage and fractured his skull in 2 places. The cause of death was determined to be massive internal injuries and hemorrhaging. Despite the gruesome and bizarre nature of the injuries, the incident was quickly ruled an accident by the authorities. From the outset, law enforcement treated the case as a tragic accident, a teenage misjudgment that ended in catastrophe, yet Jason's family refused to accept that version of events. To them, too many things simply didn't add up. Firstly, it made very little sense that Jason would be walking to his father's house that night, especially given their lack of a relationship. Some believed Jason didn't even know where his father lived, raising further questions about where he was actually headed and why. More troubling were the inconsistencies in the investigation. Jason's family were stunned that police never tested any of the vehicles at the party for blood or tissue, particularly given that one of the partygoers was rumoured to be a local drug dealer, and, more controversially, a relative of the county sheriff. These connections, in the family's eyes, explained the alarming lack of thoroughness in the investigation. What should have been a clear priority, testing forensics from the party, was ignored entirely. Then there were the physical details of Jason's injuries. Tommy recalled being horrified by the condition of her brother's remains, specifically the brutal mutilation of his groin area. Quote, "His whole groin area was just mutilated. There was even a little testicle on the side of the road," she said. To the family, these injuries did not appear consistent with a simple tire impact, but instead suggested something far more deliberate and grotesque. In the weeks and months that followed Jason's death, rumours circulated throughout the town of Laurel. Anonymous letters were sent to the Bolton family, suggesting that Jason had not merely been run over in his sleep, but had in fact been the victim of a horrifying, calculated attack. According to these anonymous accounts, 4 men at the bonfire party had restrained and castrated Jason in front of terrified onlookers who remained silent out of fear. After the mutilation, the men allegedly placed Jason's body in the road and ran him over with a car to make it look like an accident. Such a claim is horrifying to consider, yet it is the version of events that Jason's family has held onto for decades. They believe Jason may have witnessed something he shouldn't have at that party, perhaps a drug deal or a violent incident, and that the attack was a method to silence him. Some online investigators and bloggers, like Brian Keith O'Hara, have echoed these theories, speculating that Jason's screams during the attack could not have gone unheard. Quote, "Jason's cries and screams as he was being castrated must have been heard by everyone in that house," O'Hara wrote. "Jason must have been screaming, begging for mercy for the several minutes it took to kill him." Despite such disturbing allegations, no one was ever arrested in connection to Jason's death. The original investigation did not pursue these leads. Witnesses were not re-interviewed. Forensic testing was never explored. No grand jury was called, and most importantly, Jason's body was never exhumed for modern forensic analysis. Over 30 years later, Jason's family is still pleading for justice. They continue to demand an independent investigation, the exhumation of Jason's remains, and a re-evaluation of the case using contemporary forensic science. His sister Tommy has become the face of the family's pursuit, repeatedly calling on state officials and law enforcement to reopen the case and look beyond the official narrative. Quote, "Please allow your heart and understanding to open up an honest investigation into Jason's death," she has pleaded. "This is all we ask." Their efforts have received support online from communities of true crime followers, advocates for the missing and murdered, and private investigators. Reddit threads discussing the case are filled with disbelief, anger, and calls for action. Users express shock that no one was ever held accountable, and many urge the Indiana State Police to re-examine the case. Many comments across social media reflect public frustration and confusion over the inaction in Jason's case. In the end, the story of Jason Dale Bolton is not just about a boy who died young. It is about a family's refusal to accept injustice. It is about the painful reality that, in some small towns, silence can outweigh truth. It is about a system that, either through negligence or corruption, failed to ask the hard questions and follow the evidence wherever it led. Most of all, it is about a teenager who deserved so much more than a quick investigation and a cold case file. Jason was laid to rest in Laurel North Cemetery, not far from where he lived, and far too close to where he died. But his story should not be buried with him. His death remains a call to action, for answers, for accountability, and for justice. Whether it is through renewed investigation, forensic breakthroughs, or a long-awaited confession, Jason Bolton deserves his truth to be told. If anyone has information that could help solve this case, they are urged to contact the Indiana State Police at 765-778-2121. Until someone comes forward and the truth is fully uncovered, Jason's case remains a wound in the heart of Laurel and a scar in the conscience of justice.